Good morning. Welcome to this travel episode with me, Nyasha K Mutizwa. Today we kill two birds with one stone. We travel back into time to Ghana. We head to Cape Coast, a town in the center of the seaboard of Ghana. It lies on a low promontory jutting into the Gulf of Guinea of the Atlantic Ocean, about 120 kilometers southwest of the Ghanaian capital of Accra. However, this town is haunted by the ghosts of the past. This former European colonial capital, originally named Cabo Corso by the Portuguese, was once the largest slave trading center in West Africa. It initially traded gold before it became a hub for the transatlantic slave trade. About 40 slave castles, trading posts, and forts were built in Ghana, but the biggest of them is the Cape Coast Castle, which today is one of the major tourist attractions. These castles provided the last experience that men and women had in their homeland before their final departure. On the seaboard side of the coastal slave castles was the door of no return, a portal through which the slaves were lowered into boats and then loaded like cargo onto big slaving ships with a final goodbye to the freedom they once knew. We caught up with the Zimbabwean journalist Steve Vickers, who recently toured these slave castles in Cape Coast. He gives us a brief history. Take a listen.
I'm at St George's Castle. It's one of many castles along the Ghanaian coast, originally built by European powers as centres of commerce. St George's Castle was built by the Portuguese in 1482, later captured by the Dutch, who were in charge during the times of slavery, and then given to the British in 1872. It was initially used in the trade of gold, ivory and spices from Ghana, which Europeans took to other countries. But then the evils of trading humans took over. People from Ghana and the whole region, nations like Côte d'Ivoire, Nigeria, Togo and Benin, were captured by traders and imprisoned here until the time came for a ship to take them to the Americas, all the way across the vast Atlantic Ocean. And the conditions here were truly shocking.
Up to 1,000 male and 500 female slaves were shackled and crammed in the castle's dank, poorly ventilated dungeons with no space and very little light, water and sanitation. Steve Vickers describes to us the likely conditions that were in the female dungeons.
This is the female slave dungeon. It's a dark, long room with very little air in it. 150 female slaves would be kept here at a time. There were 2 buckets, one at either end, for them to use for the toilet. They never had a chance to wash for all of the weeks that they spent here, and many would become sick and even lying in their own mess, and the smell here would have been truly awful. So cruel were the conditions here that if there were, say, 300 slaves who were captured, 100 of them would have died already in this place. The value that was put on the lives of Africans was so low.
Thanks there to Zimbabwean journalist Steve Vickers giving us a report from Cape Coast in Ghana. And you know, the ironic thing is that above these torturous dungeons that Steve just described were churches. The slave traders would come to pray and worship as if they did not see anything wrong with their cruel and inhumane treatment of black people. The transatlantic slave trade was abolished in 1870. So now we jump to the 21st century. Today, Cape Coast is an easygoing fishing town with an arty vibe, fanned by salty sea breezes and kissed by peeling waves. Crumbling colonial buildings fan the streets, and seaside birds prowl the beaches, and fishermen cast nets where slave ships once sailed. There are a lot of American guests who visit. They go to follow the footsteps of their ancestors. One such guest is former American President Barack Obama, who visited the site in 2009. But what else can you do in this beautiful and historically significant town? Well, you can attend one of the 32 festivals held there, or go to see the Kakum National Park. And if you're a food lover, you can try the very popular Baobab House, known as a vegetarian's dream. Whatever you decide to do, a visit to Cape Coast might just allow you to take a step back in this now fast-paced world and remember the sacrifices our ancestors made for us to be here. And with that, we end travel for this week. Thank you for joining me. I am Nyasha K Mutizwa. Let's travel together on social media, on Facebook and Twitter, at Nyasha K Mutizwa. Till next time.